Hey everybody, it's Mark, Reliving the American Revolution. We're at Fort Griswold in Groton, Connecticut, and it is September the 6th, 1781. It's about 20 days before the Battle of Yorktown. We're in the north, Washington is in the south. So a quick recap is General Clinton orders Benedict Arnold to come here and make a diversion trying to draw Washington back to Connecticut from his march down to Yorktown. So Fort Griswold was the last major battle in the Northeast. It was quick, it was dirty, and it was nasty. So we have a big monument behind us here to the men who died, and basically Arnold came up. If you look through this fog here, that fog bank, on the other side of the Thames River is the city of New London, and Arnold was ordered to destroy and burn that town. Funny enough, 13 miles north of that river is Norwich, Connecticut, where Arnold was born and raised, and he did not like the people of Norwich, and it was thought that he was going to continue up to Norwich and burn Norwich as well. So Arnold lands in New London, which is just across the river, and he burns the town, and he orders a detachment of British soldiers to come over to the Groton side. And we're going to walk down, and you can see this steep hill that we're on, and the British try to come up this hill. And they take the cannonade area that is down here. You can see where the markings are for the cannons and stuff. And this fort, excuse me, this fort is defended by farmers who got the word that the British were coming. They were led by Colonel Ledyard, and they were just farmers and merchants and stuff, and they gathered here. They were the local militia. They had no formal training or anything, and they took to the battlefield to defend their land. The British were coming. The first time the British had been here, and they took the stance of not my yard. So the British make an attempt to come up, and they fail, and they come up again and they fail. And in the long run, they are successful. They take the Americans, and in the area behind me up here was a redoubt, and in that redoubt was about 88 men, including Colonel Ledyard. And the British came up, they got over the redoubt, and Colonel Ledyard says, okay, we surrender. And he gives his sword to a gentleman by the name of Montgomery. He was a captain or a lieutenant. Montgomery takes the sword from Colonel Ledyard and stabs him and kills him, and which is totally unheard of. The guy surrendered. And then the British opened fire on all of the men that were in the redoubt, going into the little catacombs and the little places where they hid the gunpowder, and shooting everybody. Nobody got to surrender. They were all massacred. So that was the last battle for Arnold. General Arnold, after the war, he goes to England, and then he goes to New Brunswick, Canada, and he goes to Nova Scotia. He's a merchant. He builds some ships. He tries to revive his shipping business. He's not very successful. He's not well liked. In fact, in New Brunswick, they burn an effigy of him because they hate him so much. He returns to London, and Arnold, he is somewhat of a successful merchant, not very well. He ends up dying in 1801 in London, and it is reported that some of his last words is that he regretted ever having become a traitor. He leaves his family in poor condition as far as his monetaries, and is buried in a chapel in London, and then is moved to a unmarked mass grave somewheres in London, and no one really has an idea of where he is right now. They have a couple ideas, but nothing serious. So that ends Benedict Arnold and what he did after the war, as well as his last battle. So there you go from Fort Griswold. Nice foggy day, but for anybody that's looking, this fog would be reminiscent of cannon fire, because these cannons, the gunpowder was very poor quality. So if you had cannon fire, it would look very similar to this. You wouldn't see very well, and so that's what this fog can give you an idea of. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. Thanks.